Hi crafty friends, Shana from ShanoukiArt. How about this stunning Shabby Chic butterfly for your junk journal centerfold? If you're ever stuck for ideas for a centerfold where your pages are just plain, a large focal point like this butterfly will do just the trick. Some pages have got envelopes in the centerfold, some have got your printables, and some are just scrapbook paper. But if you have something plainer that you want to enhance, you can make a statement piece like this. We will start by making a template. I find this the easiest way. So I fold an A4 paper in half and I place it in the center of my journal, and then I roughly sketch out my butterfly shape. You could also create a heart, a mushroom, any shape you like. I'm really drawn to butterflies and they suit the theme of my journal. I'm then going to cut out my template. Now I created two for this video because while I was busy with the process of the first one, my phone overheated and the video stopped. So I had cut out these shapes for each of the wings of my butterfly, and because we've missed it in the video, I will re-show you on a second butterfly just how I got those shapes. Now, a good thing is to use pattern papers or printables or any kind of papers that you've used throughout your journal for the wings of this butterfly. I always talk about continuity and using similar elements throughout your journal to create cohesion. This is a great place to do it. So I've used a piece of the printable kit that I'm using, and then I'm also using a piece of text from a book. And it's easy as tracing around the shape of your wing and then cutting it out. It doesn't have to be exact. It's okay if it overlaps a bit, if it's slightly wonky. It's meant to be a shabby chic butterfly, so the rough ends are great. If you're looking for obviously a neater, more pristine butterfly, you can cut it more exactly. You can also just use patchwork pieces and really tear up small pieces of your papers and place them on the wing. It really is up to your imagination. If you're interested in the two floral printable kits that I'm using in my Big Fat Pink journal, they are from Nectar's Creations. She currently has a 40% off sale on her entire shop. I'll put a link to her shop in the description box below. So for mine, I'm using a combination of the printable kit, and then I'm using sheet music and old book pages, elements that I have used before or pages that are included in my journal. And I'm alternating the florals with the plainer to create variety and that patchwork feel. So that is how I got the 4 wings of my original butterfly, which is the ones I want to use. I will finish the other butterfly and use it in another project or maybe still in my journal. Because butterfly wings usually have different patterns and shapes on, I want to create that in my paper butterfly. So I'm cutting out a very rough shape again as a template. It's sort of like a teardrop shape that's going to go in the bottom wing. And then I'm going to cut out a piece of the sheet music, again using papers I have used before. And I'm placing them alternating. If I have a floral paper on my butterfly wing, I'm going to use maybe like a sheet music or a vintage page. You want it to stand out and you want it to be contrasting. I'm going to create more shapes for the top wings. Again, I always start with a template first. I use a rough piece of paper to draw the shape and cut it out to see if that's the shape I want, and then I trace it onto the papers that I'm going to use. I have glued down my wings onto the template, and now I'm sticking down the smaller pieces on top. I'm using a glue stick. In the center of my butterfly, where the wings were overlapping, I've just trimmed those down to align with the middle of the butterfly. I'm adding a piece of green cardstock. I think it breaks the pink a little bit, and also I've used this green in multiple pages throughout the journal, so I want to repeat it here. I've just torn a shape for the right hand side, and I'm trying to find a similar shape and a good pattern for the left. I'm going to use a piece of the floral that I've used in the bottom left wing. The shape is not going to be exactly the same size and style as the green piece, but that's okay. It's not meant to be all identical. And in hindsight, I could have created the template originally with different shaped and size wings. I didn't have to fold it in half and sort of create a copy of the wings. I could have hand drawn the entire butterfly so the wings were uneven. Going forward, I may try that. So watch this space. I'm now going to take my butterfly over to the sewing machine. Using a white thread and just regular running stitch, I'm going to go around the edges of my butterfly wings and around the shapes. I'm going to try and keep a continuous flow, and I'm going to move my project underneath the foot of the sewing machine so that the stitching isn't aligned. If I go over multiple times, I want the lines to be separated so you can see the different lines of stitching. Here I'm going to create some additional interest with some bunched thread. I know this isn't for everybody. I lift the foot of my sewing machine and I pull my project out from underneath, and then I pull it to get quite a little bit of the thread. I then take that thread and bunch it up on top of my project in a certain area, and then I stitch over it and it'll create a clump of thread. Now, if you don't have a sewing machine for this part, that's totally okay. You don't have to do the stitching. What you can do is apply additional glue when you're sticking your pieces down. If you remember, I applied very little glue stick just to keep them in place. You can apply proper glue to adhere them well. You can then do some hand stitching, or you can leave it as is. You could also use a colored pencil or a marker or a crayon or even paint to go around the edges to create some definition. This stitching is meant to be very free and flowing. It doesn't have to be exactly aligned to the edge. It's meant to be a tatty butterfly. Go over it as many times as you want. Create additional lines and patterns with your stitching. I'm creating another bunched thread element on the top right wing. I've now changed the thread of my sewing machine to black, and I'm going to do the body or the center of the butterfly. I'm going to go up and down multiple times. I'm also going to add some additional black thread underneath the foot of the sewing machine and stitch over that to create some bulkiness to the body. If you're not doing the stitching, you could create the body with some fibers, some thread with glue. You can cut out a piece of cardstock, or you could leave it as is. A little difficult to see the white thread in the video, but there you can see all the details of my stitching. It creates so much texture. I want to rough up the edges of my butterfly wings. I'm going to use an open scissors and run it along the edges, which creates a really worn look. I'm also going to tear a few bits and also do some rips and curl the papers back. And then I'm going to use a little bit of distress ink just to enhance the tears and the rough edges. Besides a large butterfly like this for a centerfold, you could create smaller ones and use them throughout your journal as page enhancers or even on the cover. You can add fabric bits, you can add flowers. I have some rub-on stickers. I'm going to add a little bit just to add some interest. I like this text, which is sort of like a handwritten cursive in black, which is a good contrast to the body of my butterfly. I'm going to add just a little bit on the lighter areas of my butterfly wings. I feel we need to break a little bit of this pink by using some more green. I'm going to use my stencil, some ink in green and my blending brush and apply a little bit of stenciling on the bottom left wing. This is a stencil that I'm using throughout my journal. Again, we go back to the word continuity. I don't know about you, but I really love this butterfly. I'm now going to add it to my pages. It's going in the Centerfold, and I'm going to use a craft glue to attach it to my page. You could also use double-sided tape. I'm not quite sure if a glue stick would hold over time. And this glue, which is my clear Elmer's, is on its last legs, so I'm going to use my new glue because I can barely get anything out of this tube. I don't know if we need much else on this page because this butterfly is busy enough on its own and it is its own focal point. I do feel though I need to balance out the white of the bottom right wing with adding a little bit of white on the top left. But before I do that, I'm going to go around and just try and curl up as many of the edges as I can, making it look as tatty as possible. And it's okay if some of the bits tear, we do like that worn, used look. Now for that white balance that I spoke about, I'm going to add some white splatter. I'm going to just cover the areas that I don't want to have splatter with some scrap papers, and then I'm going to use my white watered down acrylic paint and do some splashes with my fan paintbrush. I then added some white splatter in the bottom right. I'm not quite sure why, I just felt it needed it there. I really hope you enjoyed this video of my Tatty Shabby Chic Centerfold butterfly and were inspired to create your own. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the little bell so you're notified every time I upload new content. Thanks again for watching, happy creating, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!